Morning, everybody. Welcome to this overcast Encore morning. Encore is a yellow tea. Oh, wait a minute. That's not a very good introduction. Because if you say Encore is a yellow tea and then go on to the next subject, all of you relax and think, oh, yeah, just another one of those rare yellow teas. Encore is not just another yellow tea. It is the prototypical yellow tea. It is a gift grade yellow tea. That's what we're doing today. Let's talk about gift grade for a minute. Okay? And in fact, let's use a historical story to talk about this. In 1971, China joined the United Nations, or they were in process of joining the United Nations. And as part of a gift to delegates, they not only gave them this tea, actually they didn't give it to them. What they gave them was a person. Well, they didn't actually give them the person either, but the person came and prepared this tea for them. Now, let's think about this a minute. The Chinese are always big about ceremony. So this means that there was something very special about this tea. And there is something very special about this tea. Where do I begin? This is a hard question because there's so many anomalies associated with this tea. You know, every time I talk to you about tea, the mountains get higher and higher. Oh yeah, this one's up there in Punglai and the fairylands, 30,000 feet above sea level. Not this. This is at or below sea level. It's not growing in water. This is on an island. And this island is on a very famous lake that straddles Hunan and Hubei called Dongting Lake. During the spring, for a relatively short amount of time, you can actually drive to this island. It's a very pleasant ride. That's usually how we get to the island, by driving to the island. But if we were there late spring, all the way through to the following year, you can't drive to this island. The level of the water in the lake rises, and you have to take a boat. Okay, so that's the first thing. We're growing on an island. We're growing on sea level. No fancy stories about high in the mountains, sunlight in all of these different directions. None of that. All right, so what should our story be today? Especially given that this appears to have real pedigree. So maybe this is something that aliens put on Earth millions of years ago? That would be false. This tea has been growing on this island for at least, or should not, let's not do the math that way. It has been recorded on this island since about the year 400. So for a long time, there's been tea on this island. It started in the Tang Dynasty being a tribute tea at some point during the Tang Dynasty. Ah, yes, all of you are rushing to Wikipedia. When was the Tang Dynasty again? Approximately 618 to 960, give or take some years in there. So it started to be a tribute tea. 40 pounds of this was sent every year to the emperor. Now that's really a princely sum. And when you understand this tea all the way today. So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. By the end of this session, you'll understand what a princely tea this is. And you'll also understand as a yellow tea, how different the processing modality of this is compared to all the other yellow teas. Last week, we had a great standalone yellow tea. And we talked about processing, anywhere from 10 to 20 hours. Not this one. This one of all the yellow teas is the longest, usually around 72 hours or so. So it's got a completely different sense to it, and it's got a different sense to why it's famous. So we can pick any number of elements to start for what makes it famous. Let's do the folktale ones. Let's talk about the element of buds only. So I'm talking about leaf buds here, by the way. So when it's picked and processed, they're only picking the leaf bud. So again, as a reminder, what's the farmer giving up? The farmer's giving up about 4 leaves, because if you let that bud open, there would be 4 leaves on that bud. So that's the first thing. So are these buds, because they're at sea level, are they on a diet? Maybe they're really thin? Quite the opposite. In the rich, sandy, loamy soil of this island, they produce fat buds. Now, some of you may be thinking, he's painting a picture in my mind. Fat buds, I can kind of get that picture in my mind. But I'm doing more than that, because fat buds is going to be part of what we discuss when we discuss the brewing of this, because fat buds contribute to the 3 rises and the 3 falls. I love all these numbered things because they're easy to remember. 3 rises and 3 falls. That sounds fun. Sounds like we're on some Chinese themed, Disney themed waterfall ride. We're not. This 3 rises and 3 falls, and you'll see what's meant, although you won't see a demonstration. I'll talk to you about why exactly you may not see a demonstration. But when they make this at the most ideal, in the most ideal circumstances, occasionally you'll get the tea leaves at the top standing. They'll fall, they'll rise, they'll fall, they'll rise, they'll fall, and they'll rise again. It's an extraordinary event, actually, when that happens. But because it has happened before, it's become historical. And it's gotten into the folklore around this tea. Oh, yeah. When you get this tea, you got to see the 3 rises and the 3 falls, and then you're blessed. And somehow all the gods are in alignment with you, and you're going to have a great day. Now, as science developed, we began to understand why there could be this phenomenon. And let's go back to fat buds. It has to do with the buds need to be a particular configuration in order for this to happen. And the bud heads in particular have to be a particular configuration. So this means it rarely occurs. So that's the first thing. I've jumped around all over the place, but this is how this session is going to be, because there is so much history and folklore. We're going to cover this in totality, almost like an organic whole, instead of marching out historical facts, using all those big old long words that I have to use in order to feel satisfied. No, this is going to be more the organic story of this tea. I also, right now, am going to signal to you why there may have been confusion, although this is not confirmed. And by the way, I've never exactly read this anywhere, but I am sensing, because it was already a tribute tea during the Tang Dynasty, remembering that in the 1100s, one of the emperors, and by the way, that wasn't the Tang Dynasty in the 1100s. The 1100s was Sung Dynasty. One of the famous emperors who loved tea wrote about white buds. Who knows exactly what this emperor was referring to? What we do know is it wasn't white tea. It was not white tea because that process hadn't been invented yet. Could it have been Junshan tea? Maybe. I've never read that anywhere, but it's a possibility because again, you're dealing with a budded tea. Okay, let's go back to that island for a minute. Beautiful place. Temperature range is 60, 65 most of the year. Humid during some parts of the year. Water gets high after the spring. You got bamboo growing on this island. You got some pine trees growing on this island. Nice and shaded. Can anybody just take a rowboat and go out and row over to the island and go pick themselves some some Encore, and then go back home and enjoy that? The answer would be no. Cannot do that. That island is strictly controlled, and access to this tea is strictly controlled. I've talked to you before about gated areas. Tungmuguan in the Wui Mountains, Wang's Creation area in Anhui. You simply can't, as a stranger, I mean, as a Chinese stranger with Chinese citizenship, you can't just walk into these areas without real business. Won't happen. Now, is there tourism to this island? There actually is. A relatively brand new hotel has been built there. It is stunningly beautiful. And at any point, should we make a snap decision to take a group, this is on the list of one of the possibilities of going to, because it's really beautiful. That area, by the way, is very historical. The name, the geographical name associated to close by that area is Yueyang, Yueyang. And we would take you to this place because Yueyang has occurred in many, many poems, has historical significance, beautiful little town. It's not on the island, but it's not far from it. So this gives you a little bit of context for this tea. So I ask you this because I already signaled in the email, the initial email that I sent out, that this is gift grade. Well, gift to who? What, my 3-year-old? Or gift to my uncle? Or who gets this type of gift? How about diplomats? How about special friends to China? This is gift grade tea. This is special. You will not walk into any shop in the US and encounter this grade of this tea. Will not happen. So that's what we're doing today. Let's talk, before I get lost, I'm not lost yet, let's talk a little bit about processing, because all of your inquiring minds are thinking about fifth grade on an island, sandy, loamy, historical. What goes into this tea? What are they doing differently than other yellow teas? So remember, I opened up standalone, anywhere from 10 to 20 hours. This tea goes through the following process. They green it. Oh, we have yellow tea that's green. Nope, that's just a technical term for they actually deoxidize for the most part. Unbelievable. I just made up a word. Denature the oxidation. And it sounded so good. And that's why I knew I made it up. Denature the oxidation enzyme in the tea for the most part, not entirely. How do you only denature a portion? And what, you open up the leaf? Well, we'll take this and take that out and throw it out. Oh no, we actually, and what they do is they have a pot. And this pot they heat. Ah, yes, we know the magic of heat. You get to 150 degrees, you denature the oxidation enzyme. Do they get to 150 degrees? Yes, but for a very short time. Normally, when I get up here and talk to you about green tea, 300, 400 degrees. So they're not kidding. They want every single one of those enzymes denatured. Here, we're talking anywhere from 140 to 160. So we want some leftover enzymes so that later on, we can have some oxidation. Not a lot, but we want a little. But greening means this sense of almost making it a green tea by denaturing that enzyme. And you put it in this pot and you get the heat up to between 140 and 160. And remember, in some of the places they use whisk brooms. When they're doing Premier's Choice, they use whisk brooms. Some of the places they use their hands to shape, and Dragon Wild used their hands to shape. Yellow Mountain Reserve, they use their hands and kind of, just distribute the heat. What do they do here? They do use their hands. That's good. They're on the same wavelength, but instead they're just lifting it up, tossing it down, lifting it up. Well, I use simple words, right? Tossing it down. They are artfully lifting it up and letting it fall. After doing that for the appropriate amount of time, which isn't all that long, they then allow it to cool. They leave the pot. The leaves are taken from the pot and put on bamboo plates. And for 4 to 5 minutes, they're kind of shaken and distributed. And what are they trying to do? Well, what did they accomplish with the greening? With the greening, they accomplished the reduction of moisture by about 30%. With the shaking and rearranging of the leaves, what are they trying to accomplish? Getting out loose material that doesn't belong. Getting any extra hairs that have fallen off the leaves out of there. Any broken leaves, let's get those out of there. So those are the first couple steps. Now, did I say this accurately? You, as the 1%ers, no, I didn't say it accurately. And you're all thinking, well, you forgot to tell us about how it's picked. Okay, let's talk about the 9 no-nos. Can you pick when it's raining? Answer is no. How about if there's just some soft fog do? It looks beautiful. No. How about if the bud is hollow? That's a big no-no because it's not going to float up and down properly, not properly weighted, and it won't be a fat bud. How about, let's get some color in there. How about if there's purple on the leaves? Oh my God. No. Well, maybe if the insect has taken a chomp of it and that proves there's no pesticide on it. We want perfect leaves. That's a no-no. Okay, I get all those no-nos. What happens if there's a snap frost and a leaf gets frostbitten? That belongs to the no-no. How about, you said fat buds. Let's get a really tall fat bud. Or maybe a really short fat bud. That would look really attractive in the brewing of it. No, it wouldn't. We want uniformity. All the leaves that are picked will be between 25 and 30 millimeters. Oh, that's right. I don't live in a country that uses that system. All the buds that are picked will be about an inch long with narrow tolerance. That's 7 of them. Why am I, oh no, that's 8 of them. Why am I not remembering the 9th? Well, there's a 9th no-no too. It'll come back to me in a minute. So there are things that the pickers must do. Oh, I remember now. If the leaf is broken, you can't pick it. And I said leaf. That's a no-no right there. If the bud is broken, you can't pick it. So when you think about this, can you get, say you say to yourself, I'm gonna save money. I'm gonna get those real fast pickers out of Oakland and bring them on down here and pick this stuff fast. Because gosh, every year my pickers are so slow. And how many movements of the hand do they need to pick about a pound? They need 12,500 approximately movements of the hand to get 1 pound pick. So you cannot get some group of people that don't know what they're doing or don't have the requisite experience. Cannot do it because you're not going to end up with the right starting point. So there is great particularity. Think about this a minute. You pick, I said 12,500. No, it's going to actually be more than that, isn't it? Because you pick, oh my gosh, that's hollow. How do you know it's hollow? The weighting doesn't feel right. Oh, you're gone. So this is one of the reasons that these tea leaves are so extraordinary and that the effort that goes into this is so extraordinary. You know, in some ways, and this is a joke now, so I'll pre-label this beforehand. In some ways, it makes you feel that doing this type of yellow tea process is harder than an oolong cliff tea process. Oh, except the math doesn't quite add up. 30 steps, 7 months with Louis, 72 hours. Well, they're both very hard and they need experience. What else do they share? Secrecy. Oh, secrecy. What do you mean? The secrecy of the entire process. I think you've heard me talk about this place forever. And I've talked to you about the one thing that they just won't give it up to us. And that is the paper that they're using to wrap the tea leaves in. They just won't show us exactly what that paper is. It feels to me like it's something like wax paper. Why do I say that? I've gotten clues along the way. But have I actually touched it and felt it and seen it? No, not up close, I haven't. So we've gotten them through the first 3 steps, the picking, which is tedious, arduous, and has to be done with great care, the greening, the cooling and separation. Oh, let's do some baking. You know, I haven't used the word baking yet. I feel like baking. Step 4, let's bake the tea. What are we attempting to do? We're attempting to reduce the moisture down to around 50%. And what do we want to do? We're going to use charcoal, so it's going to be semi-barbecue. No, it's not. We're using charcoal as the heat source. And in terms of temperature, we're going to be, again, somewhere in the beginning at around 160 to 180. So it's first high, and then it's next low. Low being a relative term, right? The low being around 140 to 160, a baking process. And you're going to bake for about 20 minutes. Okay, I know right away, complaints. Well, why can't you just give me a number, 20 exact minutes? Well, we have to think about things. And one of the things we have to think about is, what's the outside environment? Is it really cold? Were we really able, through the greening and cooling process, to get the reduction in moisture down 30%? Or maybe it's only down 28% or 25%. Or maybe we were so diligent and the weather conditions were so good, we got 35%. So the baking's going to take more or less than that 20 minutes, but I'm placing you in the arena. And that's all we can ask for, to be placed in the arena. And you want to be about 50%. Conclusion of baking, what do? You segregate. You segregate by 1.5 pound amounts, and you wrap it in paper, and then you're gonna put it in a moisture, temperature controlled room. Okay, and ventilated room. So we just talked about 3 important criteria: moisture, heat, and ventilation. So all of these are going to control, the combination of these are going to control the output, the final outcome of the taste. And so when you talk about yellow tea at this level with this tea, if you ask me, where am I going to focus my attention? Where can I not make a mistake? It would be right here. Why is that? Because you have a 72-hour process of doing this. That's a long tea time to be doing this. You know, the greening process was 20 minutes or something. Cooling process was 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, if a little mistake occurs there, you know, they're not good, but it's, you know, probably okay. You can get through it. You can't have those type of mistakes during a 72-hour period. What you have to have is skillful judgments of how the tea is progressing. Because thinking again about the ventilation, moisture, and the heat, all 3 of those are going to determine, in combination, the chemical constituents of the tea. Now, you're going to ask me a key question here, and I'm going to shortcut you. I have a sense of what those chemical constituents are, and there are a bunch of long words. We're not going to talk about those long words today. I promise I will be poised to talk about them next week. And we will discuss what all those long words are and how they may interact with health, because there are some important things to understand about this relationship. It's today, the key takeaway is that there is a relationship, and this is why they go through this process. They're not just doing this for fun. Oh yeah, let's do it for 72 hours this year because, we'll put on the market, we'll put on the pack. Oh, 72-hour, process. No, this has been built up over time. It's a traditional process. It's a semi-secret process. So, okay, you put those in, wrap them up, and then I guess as a worker, after you wrap them up, you put them in this moisture ventilated, heated room, and then you just go off and have a smoke. Well, wait a minute, we're in the non-smoking era. Then you just go off and have a rest. And the answer would be no. Remembering that you're gonna open those up at some point, the packages, of course, and you're gonna mix them. And depending on what the moisture levels are, you're going to re-bake, re-wrap, and do it again. So the first round, about how long is that? It's usually around 40 hours. But if you said to me, you mean 40 hours on the dot? It's just like everything else. No, it's about 40 hours. Aroma and determined temperature help make a choice. And determined temperature, that's a great term. I just made it up. I'm going to tell you what that is in a second. Yes.
Jeremy asked, when they're wrapping the tea up in the special paper, how big is the parcel and how many pounds is the parcel?
Oh, great question. Jeremy says, I'm used to making cookies at a standard size. When they wrap these parcels up, are they standard sided? And about how much is in each one of those packages? And I know exactly, I know roughly how much is in each of those packages. It's 3 pounds, 2 to 3 pounds. That's a big range. It's closer to the 3 than it is to the 2. And part of how I know this is because the paper is uniform. So you're going to get about the same amount in each parcel. And the skill of wrapping it is about the same. So I said a minute ago, temperature determined. Let's talk about what I mean. So if the temperature, the internal temperature of that package gets to, oh, okay, let's back up. I see this is not quite going 100% what I want. So the temperature is going to vary. Why is it going to vary? Because the conditions outside influence the conditions inside. Yes, it's a temperature, moisture, and ventilated room, but still the overall ambient air has an influence. So if the average temperature in the bag, so what's happening in these bags? And now the scientists and you have gotten your heads moving. What exactly is happening? Well, aside from decreasing the moisture, you're having, remember we left over some oxidative enzymes? You're having some oxidation. This sealing the yellow step, this is what this is called, is actually an oxidation step, isn't it? Is it a lot of oxidation? No, but it's more than white tea. And so as that happens, what happens? Is oxidation an energy neutral step? Obviously not. Oxidation creates heat. And so as the temperature, they want the temperature of those packages, the internal temperature is what I'm talking about, anywhere from about 60 to 68 degrees. That's a huge range when it comes to processing this tea. Because if you're at the 68 end, it's going to yellow faster. You got to pay attention to this. It's going to smell and change faster. If it's at the 60-degree end, it's going to yellow slower. And therefore, timings have to be different. This is why you don't have the Betty Crocker book on yellow tea, because it's really dependent on the ambient surroundings. How am I? Oh, my. Okay. All right, I gotta speed this up because I already sense a disturbance in the force. And rather than have a large disturbance, let's see if I can keep this to a small disturbance. 40 hours, the first wrapping, you bake a little bit to control moisture, then you put it in for another 5 to 10 hours and do the same thing, and then you finish up with the last 15, 20 hours. And all along the way, you're adjusting temperature, you're adjusting how you sense the tea because you want an end result. All right, I sped through those last hours because I see that the tea master is ready to demonstrate this tea, and then you'll brew along with her. So on this special yellow tea gift grade day, let me bring in the numinous tea master.
Okay. Hi, good morning. 早上好. Yeah, I change style. This today we talking, 10 cup tea. So this ginseng needle. So before I learn, so today so this is prepare loosely. Yeah. So this is special brew, like John translation. So I change. So I want to try.
All right, so she's gonna do it in 2 different ways to demonstrate the way the way you should do it, and then B, the way that may promote a rising and falling. The rising and falling, as I said at the beginning of the session, very hard to do. And there's secrets behind it which really aren't shared. And it's really funny when they bring the tea out to you at the factory, it's already rising and falling. You never see how they do it. We have a pretty good sense of how it's done, and luck is part of it, and it's the luck of the draw with the particular tea buds. So you heat the glass first, and that's really very important. And you should be using fairly hot water to heat the glass first. Same purpose, make it clean, make sure there's nothing in there. But there's really another purpose, especially with this tea, because how you heat the glass is going to influence what the outcome is. And don't worry, I've done this tea many, many times, not achieving the desired outcome. However, I have on occasion actually achieved the desired outcome. It's really, really hard. And we've seen it done a few times by people outside of the industry. And again, they have mixed results. Sometimes they hit it and sometimes they don't. And we've figured out by talking to people in the tea industry, it really does have to do with individual buds. So watch carefully her next steps. Looks like she's dissipating the steam, and then she's pouring it right back in the pot. This is interesting. We don't usually see this. Watch the rhythm. Watch the details. Half a cup. Tea leaves in. And swirl it around a little bit so all the tea leaves catch some water. And you already see activity. Most sitting on the top, but some already at the bottom. And then, after some relatively shorter time, you add water to the top.
这个叫的就是速度注水的放水的时候，速度要快，
So when you
用
put
力
the
一点，
water in,
但马
you've
上
gotta
结束。
have quick movements.
Yeah.
So the water's gotta go in quickly.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. And by the way, you know, if you do this at home and all the leaves stand in one place, don't worry. Remember, at the end of the day, while we love our aesthetics, that's not the whole story. In fact, the real story is the taste, isn't it? The aesthetics are great, but you know, you don't taste aesthetics.
Yes.
So under the most ideal of circumstances, over the next 3 minutes, you would see the up and down nature from this tea. And by the way, you may be thinking and wondering to yourself, well, if it works with this type of tea, if you had another budded tea, might it work? And the answer is it might work. And I'm not saying that theoretically, it actually does work occasionally, but again, it really has to do with the proportion of the head to the rest of the leaf. And that creates a difference in absorption, and that creates the up and down motion. Now, there's a lot more science, you know, I could use specific gravity and so forth, use all these terms, but we're not in a science class today. And that's why I'm not going to go to that place. But it's really interesting to watch this. And then when you're at the factory, it's just amazing when they bring these cups out, because somehow they've done something in the back, which they're able to segregate so that the buds do go up and down. It's beautiful whether they do go up and down or not. You get some standing at the bottom, standing at the top, and eventually over time, they really will go up and down. But don't, you know, follow the brewing instructions. The aesthetics are the aesthetics. The taste is what really matters here. So it's 170-degree water, 3 minutes for the first steep.
在里边啊，因为不是外边，
Oh,
在
that's
里边
right.
是这个，用
I
这个
forgot
做
to tell you the most important
Yeah.
thing. When they do it in a factory, they always do it in one of these glasses.
Yeah.
So that has something also to do with the distribution of heat, and somehow it works a ton better in those glasses than it does in this. Okay, 3 minutes is expired. separate the tea from the tea water. I want you to note some things about this. This has a light yellow patina. We're going to enter the quality arena. The things that we're looking for are as usual: stringency, location, aftertaste, and any energetics. Okay, took the first sip, 170-degree sip, actually got some amount of liquid on my tongue. I feel an astringency. I'm feeling an aftertaste. Even energetics, I'm feeling already. I'm gonna do a second one, and I'm gonna focus on aroma and taste, reinforcing also what I just think I detected in this tea. It's your turn. So it really is a highlight to go to this area. This area is controlled differently than other areas in China. And what I mean, I use the word control. The culture is a little different in this area. It's a really fun and historical area to visit. So you just have a different sense of Chinese culture when you go to Yueyang and this.
Several appreciative comments from participants on your hair and your look today, and happy
Thank you.
solstice wishes
Holiday.
from participants.
Thank you, thank you.
So you notice this technique, pouring half in a cup, putting back in the pot. And again, if you say to yourself, God, this is a lot of trouble. You know this is a gift grade tea, but this is just a lot of trouble. Don't worry about it. Just do a regular pouring and you're going to enjoy this thing the same way. We do this because we like the aesthetic of it. And some of you will like the aesthetic, and some of you are going to say too much trouble. And we don't blame you for that. It is more effort, and that's fine. That's not a problem.
这个窑香非常主要啊，均匀。
So shaking it like that, so it's kind of going in a circle, and that would be counterclockwise, is important. If you're going to try and look at the speed with which she pours on top. Great. Oh, then I'm supposed to be doing something over here, saying the time, which of course I'm not doing yet. Okay. So you see speed and attention to this detail will get you a possibility of up and down. If you have one of those glasses, it'll get you an even stronger possibility of that up and down. So when we think of this tea, and when we're in China and you ask people about this tea, do they know about this tea? Have they heard about it? Or is this something only the leaders know about? Every single person in China has heard of this tea. Having said that, has every single person in China tasted this tea? Answer to that would be no, especially at this level, because it's inaccessible. there isn't that much made. This is a small island. They do actually grow and make some off island, but it's not quite the same. And by off island, by the way, under the same growing conditions. So it's right next to the island. And one of you is going to ask, is this like in the mountain and half of the mountain? And the answer is not quite. It's the same general thought about that, but it's not exactly that way because the stuff that's grown beside there, the soil is very similar. So the result is going to be very similar, but not in, on the island is considered the very best. And that's where all the experts reside. So even if it's grown beside, they wouldn't process it there. They would send it inside because again, that is where the lineage resides. And they carefully guard the secrets, all the internal secrets of how to do this completely. They'll tell you the outline, just like I told you the outline. I added some science behind that, but that's generally speaking all you get. Yes.
You mentioned no picking in the mist, and in previous sessions, you've spoken a lot about weather in the Blue Mountains as well as the terroir itself and its contribution to the quality of the tea or its attributes. So what is it? How many days is it foggy, misty on this island? Is it like too creepy, tule fog? You can't really.
Great question about the fog on this island because the person who asked it indicated that, no picking when it's foggy and dewy. I didn't say foggy, but dewy. And is there tule-like fog? So the answer is yes. There can be tule-like fog. In particular, in the springtime, there can be heavy fogs. How many days are foggy? I don't know exactly how many days are foggy, but I know that during springtime in particular, there tend to be a lot of foggy days. So let's go ahead and enter quality arena. So there's some things you'll notice right away. So I want you to think of two things. And again, in a way, it's a little unfair because I am kind of guiding you here. But I want you to think of what standalone was last week. And then secondly, I want you to think of what's the difference between this and between a green tea. Yes.
Jennifer says, first impression is the tea is pleasant and light. There's a grassy sense that lingers after that first impression. It's grounding. And happily, it reminds me of some green teas. And I was successful at getting 3 to 5 leaves to drop and rise repeatedly.
Oh, that's great. Great. Jennifer comments, she's got the magic touch. She used all the techniques and got a number of leaves to go up and down. And that's great. That's fun. In addition, she noted it's grounding. It's got slight hints of grassiness to it. It is, what else did
it reminds her of some green teas. There's a grassy sense after the first impression, just pleasant and light.
Pleasant and light. That was what, and I'm glad you said the pleasant and light. You said several important things. The grounding is important. The pleasant and light is very important because when you think famous, sometimes that occupies a part of our brains which says to us unconsciously, oh, this thing is going to be like the 100-year-old great Bordeaux and it's going to overwhelm me and this and that. And the answer is no. Actually, in China, if you strip aside the Wu Mountains and think about almost all the other tea styles, it's about subtlety.
I'm flipping this around to share a great picture that Rob took of the brewing process.
Oh, that is a great picture.
Yeah,
Yep, that's beautiful.
nice.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
He says all that's missing are the sea monkeys.
All that's missing
They
are
are the sea monkeys. in
the
that
sea monkeys. Okay,
video
oh,
I showed of the
yeah,
leaves floating up almost like a
Yeah.
seascape.
yep.
Rob adds, the scent is round and has notes of umami, butter, and florality.
Umami, butter, and florality hints in the scent that Rob detects. The flavor is round. This is absolutely round. It's absolutely comfortable, grounding, pleasant, and light. You're all getting this very, very accurately. And think about what you're saying as compared to last week when you did standalone. You love standalone, but here you're hitting attributes that are very different. And you're really getting into the comfort of this tea. And you're spot on. And as a national tea, why wouldn't you be using something that makes you grounded, something that makes you feel pleasant and light, something that's extremely warming and comforting? Absolutely. Great job. So while you're thinking, one of the contrasts with green tea that's important, the yellowing process takes away from that extreme umami. You still have some umami in there, and it takes away from extreme grassiness. You can't mistake. You would never, ever mistake this for a green tea. It's that different, and yet it's a relative. Jennifer pointed out there's still some grassiness in it. There's still some umami-ness in it. Absolutely. But underneath all of that, there's a couple other things occurring. And one of the other things, as you think about it, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I do want you to get this idea. I taste underneath this almost a sense of very light hint of corn. All right. Want to honor our time. Yeah, go ahead.
Peter shares, there's a nice, even through time, light density, and it correlates to how it energetically flows down evenly and pervasively into my core. Another very interesting internally contained grounding feeling.
Very great and interesting comment by Peter. A light density, and therefore, unlike some of the other heavier density, it has kind of a lightness of feeling as it rotates through the core, and it gets to the core. And did I miss?
But and an even like a theme of an even like steadiness to the density and a steadiness to the energetics and the way they move into the core.
Thank you. An evenness and a constancy of the energetics as it moves through the core. And I like pointing out the constancy of this. It enters the mouth, it's really comfortable, it's really got the energetics it has, but then as it goes down, it doesn't spike. And by the way, I did notice that I used different words in the beginning, and part of what I used was I detected energetics right away. But it is that constancy of the energetics, yes.
He says it's incredibly smooth, luscious in the mouthfeel. Flavor blossoms and builds.
K notes smooth and luscious in the mouthfeel, is it ever? and it builds as you continue drinking it. And yes, it does. This is one of those teas that, yes, you first drink it, yeah, it's good. Next sip, wow, this is really good. And all the while, the constancy of the energetics is hitting you, and that groundiness is getting to you, and you're getting that energy as you go through time. And you're getting the greatness of this as you go through time. You know, some teas show off right away. And, you know, look at me, you know, I'm this, that, and the other. And then you drink and you just, it's not the same from start to finish. This one is, no, you don't have to look at me, but I am going to show you greatness. Yeah.
Peter observes it has a very high class and delicate juiciness.
Love this. High class and delicate juiciness. So let's contrast this, because Peter's invited me to contrast this by using those words. Let's think about omnipresent or ovation. When you drink that, it's like, yeah, you have to get through that quick. It's that good. This steady, along with groundedness. Nobody, when we did the omnipresent class, used the word groundedness. Here, you've used the word groundedness several times. And mixed with that drinkability, mixed with how constant it is, this is out of this world in a way for one of the lighter teas.
And
Yeah.
the delicacy of the juiciness.
Delicacy of the
Interesting
juiciness.
comment. Yeah.
Love that comment. The delicacy of the juiciness. Yeah.
Rob says, I'm getting a smooth kind of astringency in the aftertaste.
Smooth astringency in the aftertaste. Indeed, yellow teas in general don't believe in making you really feel a strong astringency. All right, let me put that a different way. Let's be more scientific. The light oxidation, the sealing in the yellow gives you a completely different version of how to appreciate tea. Yellow teas, especially of this caliber, are incomparable. And you're saying the reasons why without making this generalized statement. Love what you're saying. Yes.
Jeremy says the dry leaves were almost ironed in appearance. The scent with a scent of new mown hay. And then in the liquor, the subtle lightness John mentioned. And then some front of mouth astringency, warmth throughout, comfort. This one requires study, warming to the core.
Jeremy talks about the complexity of this tea. You can't just sit down, have Beethoven going in the background, and be reading a book pleasantly and think that you're going to get fully into this tea. Or if you start that way, what's going to happen is, oh, I got to put this book down. Wait a minute, Beethoven's too dissonant. It's, you know, let's get something a little bit lighter, because this is complex. Jeremy talks about you have to almost study this tea in order to get it. Peter has implied as much without using those words. All of you, as you talk about the groundingness, constancy, how you've got to pay attention. This doesn't scream at you. You know, the cliff teas, you sit down with Howard Fortress. If you don't pay attention to me, I'm going to make you sick. It's that grabbing. This one is, oh, okay. I'm going to show you a bunch of things. And I see you're paying attention to other things. That's okay, because I'm going to show them to you in all parts of your body. And all of a sudden you're going to realize, oh, I'm drinking something really, special here. And it's light. Look, it's very light. How does this get to be so special? Great comment, Jeremy.
Rob says the battle ends before it begins. When the enemy realizes every single one of my warriors just had a sip of this tea.
I love the poetry of this. So Rob imagines going into battle and ending it even before it starts because his warriors have all taken a sip, an individual sip of this tea. That it really is nice. It's about the constancy. It's about the surprising strength of this tea. Jeremy also had noted an astringency in the front of the mouth, but a light one. That's what I detected right away. And this is part, I think, of linking to Rob's comment because immediately it gets your attention. It doesn't tell you where it's going to go. You know, the Wulongs, the cliff teas will scream, I'm going to go here or there. Sometimes they trick you. This one says, oh, I'm just in here. I'm just playing around. And then it takes you places. Yes.
Peter says, deep in the cup, it's helping me make more sense of what umami is.
Love this comment. Deep in the cup, Peter's detecting more of a definition of umami. And this is really an important comment because, and at some point, we're going to do a session on umami. And Peter suggested this, and I think it's a great idea because we all use that term. And we kind of all have a similar sense. But if you ask us to define, it's really hard to do. And you ask us degree, it's really hard to state. And so, great comment.
Jennifer says, yeah, on the umami point, I had a fleeting thought of umami as well, but a hint of it. It's not a strong umami like some of the other teas I have.
There you go. Hint of umami rather than a strength of umami. And this is key because green teas many times have strength of umami. A tea like this, especially having gone through this process takes care of the chemical constituents that lead and create umaminess. Not all of them, so there's still a hint of umami in here, and it's really pleasant. Some people don't like the strength of umami. This is a great substitute so you get the palate, the light palate of umami. Great commenting. All right, as usual, no self-control over time, but this tea called out. And that's why I had no self-control, because this tea demanded our attention. And as usual, working with the 1%ers that you all are, you always blow me away. You really do. Because the comments are thoughtful, insightful. You clearly understand what's going on with this tea. And that's the most that the tea master and I always hope for. We are trying to give you context. We are trying in the midst of that context to fill in the experience so that anytime anybody talks to you about yellow tea, you can look them straight in the eye and ask them, what exactly is it you like about yellow tea and why do you like it about? And if they can't answer that, they don't belong to the 1% club. All right, you guys have done, you all have done, I gotta start being more careful in how I state this. All of you have done a great job. I really look forward to next week. Next week, we are going to come and be completely poised for an interesting session. And this week, the rest of it, oh, wait a minute. Next week is Christmas. Oh,
and hot.
so you're gonna have lots of fun midweek. Well, by the time you come to Saturday, you'll be ready to have more fun. We'll provide it with poison. You all be healthy, have a happy holiday, Hanukkah,
holiday.
Christmas, Kwanzaa. Take
Right.
care.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.